Engage with a call center team that thrives on solving problems together. Engage with leadership that listens. Engage with new experiences and see what happens. Synchrony Financial is now hiring for call center positions in Phoenix. If you're the kind of person who can engage and solve problems, you're the kind of person we need. Click the banner to join our talent network. Synchrony Financial. Engage with us.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everyone. This is Conscious Contact, and welcome. And my name is Sheila McCarthy, although I'm thinking of having a radio name, maybe something like Sedona Smile, right? Doesn't it have more of a radio ring to it? This is Sedona with Conscious Contact. We'll see how that goes. I'm really looking forward to tonight's program because it's a kickoff program of this type, and my goal is to have us each be able to consciously connect with ourselves, with our true selves, with each other, and those that are on planet and those that are off planet. So how cool is that? So thank you for joining me. I'm not sure about the frequency of these shows. Well, I mean, it'll have a high vibration, that's for sure, but I mean, how many times we'll be doing these? But we'll see what seems like a fun idea, what we're inspired to do. So for me, I've been interested in listening to folks presenting messages from teachers like Abraham Hicks and Bashar and Bentinho. And let's see, there's probably some, started all with Wayne Dyer in the beginning, and then Abraham Hicks, and then Bashar, and then Bentinho. Yep, it's been a wonderful, wonderful ride and expressing myself in this way. I've really, really enjoyed it. And just came from a live event today that Bentinho was hosting. So we'll be talking about that in just a little bit. But to start with, I thought kicking off tonight's theme is going to be the power of influence and the influence we can have on others. And that was a lot what Bentinho was talking about, is inspiring others. So there's so much there that's going on in that topic for me. I'm very excited about it. So that's a little about me and my vision for the show. I'm really excited to have a guest as well. My friend Ray is here. So, Ray, you can go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody. Well, if Ray is here, maybe I'm the only one that's hearing him. But this has been a lot of fun looking forward to this and co-creating it. So when he comes on the line, we'll get to talk with him, he'll be able to introduce himself and tell you all about what he's up to and how you can reach out to him if that's what you're interested in. I had some stories of influence. I think what really kicked it off is I went to an event that Bashar was holding about contact in Sedona. And I felt so inspired to go to that event. And it didn't really make sense to go. It was last minute, and the event was sold out, and the expense of going, but I really felt compelled to go. And when I look back at the recent wonderful events that have unfolded, that seems to be the linchpin. That's where it all started for me. I think something about me stepping into that excitement or stepping into that activity, really being focused on that and just stepping out on faith, following my highest excitement, even in the face of things not looking positive. What I mean is, the event was sold out. We were told again and again to Ustream the event. Even getting to the location, the day of the event, I arrived the night before and had some fun experiences the night before with some people. But the day of the event, there were signs everywhere saying the event is sold out and you can Ustream, and they were advising people, for some reason, to go to a hotel or another location to Ustream. I'm not sure why. Because I was able to access Ustream on my phone just through the cellular service. I mean, literally signs duct taped to posts in the bathroom and everywhere you walked, and there was a long line of people that were looking forward to getting in who had tickets, but just hanging out there and being in the space of I was not attached to outcome, that I felt compelled to be there, and then I was going to go ahead and be there no matter what. And then I would just see what And what's really been interesting is that's where I met Ray, who you'll get to meet as well. And I got to meet some other wonderful people there. And, of course, we did get into the event, and we did get to make some wonderful connections. And we were there for the announcement that we didn't know was going to be coming. I mean, I guess that's what drew us all there, and we felt pulled to be there. But the announcement that everything is changing, that the alien archetype was actually coming into our system and things were expanding, and even the rotation or the orbit of the planets will be slightly expanded to represent this expansion. And that was just so cool to be part of that. And then everything else that's come since then. So what I encourage everyone to do, just from my personal experience, is follow your excitement. I mean, for me, I felt compelled when I watched that he had talking about the event. Bashar was talking about the event and what would be covered, and that they were looking for volunteers for a project, and I just felt compelled to be part of that. And so in the face of things that didn't look like it really made sense to go, I just went ahead and went, and everything just unfolded really, really nicely. And so easily that I almost didn't even notice, because I was so excited, like a kid on Christmas morning, about going, that I didn't, I appreciated everything along the way, but it didn't feel that amazing. And then when I looked back on it, I really could appreciate it, how things really were unfolding and still continue to unfold for me. So having that event and having that experience and being open to that, I encourage that to everybody, because now it's almost like the benefits of that, or the interest or the return on investment I get from that, is really, really strong. And it just keeps being fun and interesting along the way. So when I came back from that event, I felt I needed like a day to decompress, or sort of not go right back into whatever I thought my normal world was. And it was interesting how circumstances cooperated with that, in that the flight, I travel a lot. I've had the opportunity to travel quite a bit. And I really have easy, fun travel along the way, and have not experienced any difficulty. But this particular night, coming back from the event in Sedona to my hometown, or where I'm currently staying, because I'm a little bit of a gypsy, but where I'm staying, and I thought, okay, well, I almost didn't get on the flight. That's right. I got lost, not lost, but the timing that I left and the traffic. Called the airline on the way saying, well, could I be rebooked, or what would be my options? And I didn't mind the idea of being in Phoenix for a night. I thought, well, that could be interesting, and then flying out the next day. And I thought, well, I'm currently working at a 9-to-5 job, and it would just be a sick day I would take, and then I would continue back. But what ended up happening, I arrived to the airport and am able to get on the flight. I'm one of the last people on the flight that I'm able to get on, because the flight has been delayed. So when I get there, even though I thought, well, there's no way I'm going to make this flight, but I'm just going to show up and go through and we'll see what happens. So I get on the flight. It's been delayed half an hour or so. And then we're told, there was a more significant delay. We do take off, and we get to a place, maybe it was Charlotte. So I connected through Charlotte. But when we got to Charlotte late, and then when we tried to leave Charlotte, it's funny, I don't even remember all the details now, but it's like describing a dream a little bit, which I guess in some ways it is, to Charlotte, and there were so many like comical delays that the people who I thought might get upset or irate, it really started to get funny. I didn't get to where I was intending to get to Orlando, Florida until, I don't know, 6:30 in the morning. So it should have arrived at like 11 o'clock at night. And so having a 6 or 7 hour difference, that was, but what that did is then I was just really like, wow, well, I'm not fresh and rested and ready to go into work, so I will take today as a sick day. And so I just got a hotel near the airport and I called into work, and I took it as a sick day. While I'm catching up on my sleep and just thinking, wow, how interesting that was, that I was looking forward to having a buffer of time and space to just sort of assimilate all the information that I had. It's more the experiences I had over the weekend, and maybe we'll talk about those at some point, because I really enjoy the idea of contact. That I was, but here I was in the hotel in Orlando and just thinking, well, it's interesting, I get this time and space to do this, and then I'll just go. The hotel turned out it wasn't just for one night. I paid for one night, but they were going to give me 2 nights. So I was able to check in at 6 in the morning, and I was going to be able to stay all that day and all that night and then leave at 6 in the morning. I mean, here I thought I'd be considered like a late check-in, because sometimes I've checked into places at 2 in the morning, whatever. You still have to check out at noon that day. But I thought, how funny, I don't have to check out at noon. Or I was trying to negotiate a later checkout, that I'm able to stay all the next night. And so then I would be heading into work. But I got a call from my sister that my mother had fallen and my brother had taken her to the emergency room in a nearby town. So I just went ahead and got my stuff together and went over there. And as I'm driving over, I thought, not in a reactive way, but just in a, maybe I can be of help or be of service. I was thinking, well, this is interesting how I attracted this in my experience. I just really had an interesting and fun time away. I just manifested this delayed flight, which ended up turning into this hotel stay where I essentially get 2 nights for free. And now this, which on paper sounds dramatic, having been told your mother has fallen and now she's in the emergency room. But I decided, you know what, if this is all really true about multiple infinite parallel realities, if all this is really true, then I can go ahead and shift through any of these realities I want, and I can pick the one I want. So I thought, okay, it seems that there's a fact that she's fallen and she's at this place, but that doesn't mean it has to be catastrophic. I mean, maybe she's just sort of shaken up. Maybe it's very minimal injury, and maybe this could all sort of be a non-issue, and I'm just back in town and see her, and we go from there. And so while on the drive, which I guess took about an hour, maybe an hour and a half to drive, I just kept myself in a positive frame of mind, just thinking whatever thoughts I was thinking to keep myself I didn't feel like I was trying not to think bad thoughts. I just had really come to the idea that, well, if this is true and I can shift, well, I would prefer to shift to something that is more palatable to me, something that will be fine and sort of a non-issue as I go forward. And so I did that. And when I arrive at the hospital, she's there. She's in the emergency room and in a little, bed that they have her in. But she looks fine, and she seems fine, and she is fine. And so to me, I felt a personal victory that I had lined up with a place where, although she's here, in a place which has healing and hospitals are where many babies are born and life comes into the world, and also people die and transition out of the world. But here was, I felt I influenced this. I contributed to the situation, and that she was just fine, and we talked, and I told her I was there to support her, and she was by herself. It turns out my brother had just dropped her off at the emergency room, and once she got taken in and was being taken care of, he left. And I thought, well, that's probably for the best. It's probably good to have only people that are sort of supportive of this vision of her being fine stay, and if he wasn't in that vibrational place, it's probably best that he did whatever he needed to do. So really nothing, you can tell that nothing put me out of this mood that everything was all right, because really everything is all right. And while experiencing the sense of everything is all right, I decided that I would, stay with her, that I would stay the night in the hospital. The doctors said it was late in the afternoon, and they just wanted to keep her, to observe her, and to maybe run some tests. And so I ended up staying with my mother for that night. Let's see, that would have been Monday night, and I stayed Tuesday night and Wednesday night as well. And I told on myself, and then later I told her, let's treat it as a spa. I mean, she's getting all of her meals prepared. She doesn't have to do any laundry. She doesn't have to do any tasks. I don't have to do any tasks. I called out from work, saying spending time with my family. I was able to help her and communicate with the doctors, make things easier for her. She got to watch TV shows she liked. We had a woman who was she was in a semi-private room, and the woman that was in the next bed was even her daughter-in-law was there, Pam, who was just this wonderful bright light who enjoyed talking with my mother. So I knew that if I stepped out of the room or whatever, that she would have someone there that was delightful to talk with. And so even though on paper it might sound like, or could have the interpretation of being not a positive thing, I just decided it was going to be what I wanted it to be. I was going to make the best of the situation. And because in one reality, right, my mother falls and dies, right, in one version of reality. There is that possibility because anything we can imagine exists. And there's a reality where she falls, but she gets back up and there's no hospital and of course there's realities where she doesn't fall at all. So there's a whole spectrum of realities. And I thought, well, if I was in a reality where she'd fallen and she died, I would have wished I could have had some time with her. So why don't I sort of treat it like that? Like we shifted into one where we get to spend more time together and just have it be enjoyable and positive and just really be in the moment. And so when the doctors had her, and so that's what it was. It was an easy, sort of comfortable path of least resistance. She went for some tests, and when she would go for tests, this one they gave her some medication to help really knock her out for this big MRI magnet test. And while I'm there with her in the room and hearing the clang, 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 the noise it's making, I thought to myself, well, instead of it being a diagnostic test looking for trouble, what if it could be a healing apparatus? What if I shifted the way I looked at this? Because people do all sorts of magnet therapy, right? And so if people are doing all sorts of magnet therapy, then this could certainly be something that this big, powerful magnet maybe could be healing. Like whatever they think they're looking for, maybe this machine is healing the thing they think they're looking for. So, of course, her test results will come back fine because the machine did its job. It did the healing. And she had three tests while I was with her, and they all came back, 3 different apparatuses, and, of course, they all came back showing everything was fine. And I believe I influenced that I was able to influence it. And really I know that it's not so much I did anything to change the circumstances, that I shifted to the reality where that's what was true, where everything was fine. But it was a lot of fun with that new idea. And so when she went for an EEG where they had all these brightly colored wires attached to the back of her head, I took a picture of it for her so I could show it to her. And I said, look at all these brightly colors. Maybe this is like you're getting rainbow therapy. And we talked about what would rainbow therapy mean and what kind of healing that could do for her. And then she had another one. It was some kind of, a CAT scan, which is kind of funny because each of these tests showed everything was fine. But they went through the steps they felt obligated to go through. And my mother was so surprised that she had fallen, but then she was perfectly fine. So she was still sort of the mindset that something must be wrong. And maybe a test would show it, because if there was something wrong, then you could fix it, and then it wouldn't happen again. So I just try to really reinforce with her what one of her doctors had said. It could be I really couldn't believe the words came out of his mouth. I mean, I could and I couldn't, right? That he says it could be a one-time, a one-off thing. It could be just this one-off thing where it never happens again. We can't explain why it happened, and then it just doesn't happen again. So I thought that was beautiful. And when I heard the words coming out of his mouth, I was like, that is exactly what I believe. And now I'm in a situation where this person, who's this medical respected person, so respected by my mother, she believes his opinion, so now he's saying it to her. And so that will help her belief, and then it will be true. How cool is that? So everything just worked out really well. When she went into the CAT scan, I took a picture of her in that because they had this interesting laser that they sort of line up on you. And I said, it looks like a portal, or a Stargate kind of thing. She really likes Star Trek, and she really likes all those things that are science fiction. So it did look very science fiction-like. And, of course, that test, all the 3 tests that I was with her for, came back perfectly normal. And I slept at the hotel, and at first it was in this very cold waiting room. And I thought, well, there's got to be something better than this. And then, of course, I get told about this sort of big 4th floor waiting room, which is heated and really comfy with better snacks. And so that was really nice to line up with that. And so it went along with my theme of staying in a spa. And I met some really interesting people that were there and had wonderful conversations. And I thought, wow, what an interesting opportunity to be able to influence this outcome, because she went home with the doctors sort of scratching their heads and saying, okay, it was just this one-off thing, nothing significant. Just keep going like you're going. And she has some follow-up visits with nurses and physical therapy to help her be strong and confident walking. And that's it. So the situation became this non-issue that I wanted it to be. And I got to spend really wonderful time with her and have this connection. I remember talking to her and saying something to her that I just think is normal in my belief system about how you get to choose how you feel, or you can choose whether to be upset about that or not, or choosing to be in the moment. It was something like that. And she said to me, well, I didn't know you could do that. No one ever told me you could do that. And she's 87 and 7/8. She's almost 88. And that wasn't quite the inspiration for the Conscious Contact 88. The 88 was just because there's already Conscious Contact Gmail addresses, and so I needed to pick a number. And so I needed a number higher than 8, which I thought was cool because it looks like the infinity symbol. And then I thought 88 because what could be better than infinity than another dose of infinity? Yeah, but also perhaps an homage to my mother. And she's a twin, so there's that. But if what Bentinho and we talked about today is it's only the people that have come into the planet in the last 40 or 50 years that are looking to be of service and have this energy stream and to help ascend and reach out to others as much as possible, to help bring others with us over the next couple of years. That she was born a long time before that. And so she was listening to radio when radio was the thing, and then she was watching TV, and she certainly watches TV now, and that's her main source of information. She doesn't seem to enjoy getting on the computer, even though I was showing her Siri and how you could talk to Siri and things like that. So she has her habits and what she enjoys, and she watches the programs she enjoys, so she is following her bliss, but it's just, I don't know that she would have had access to things like talking about choosing how you feel and being in the moment and how the present can create your past and all that. It was really wonderful to be a part of that. So that was being a person of influence, and I influenced myself first by shifting to this space, and then even within that space, I felt I was able to offer influence by just maintaining my everything is good, no matter what outlook. And the rest of that week having very interesting experiences. So I'm looking forward to us having Ray to join us, and maybe a time zone thing, and maybe a first time using Blog Talk radio thing. But because things unfold the way they need to unfold, this is great. And I would be, I kind of thought to myself, I would be saying these things regardless. I mean, I'm inspired to start this and to have this conversation anyway. And so that's what we're doing now. So that was one area of influence with my family. And then I had two just yesterday with coworkers that were really interesting to me about influence. And then we'll go into some of the notes from Bentinho's presentation and what really resonated with me. So with coworkers, it was funny they happened both the same day. But I guess that's how things go, right? Things lined up to have this meeting. And at this meeting, one of the folks who's, by job title is considered a superior of mine, although we seem to be more like peers or kindred spirits. We tend to arrive at work at the same time, and we sort of energetically seem to be around and near each other, which is interesting. And she started talking to me about she was just worn out, and I could see, she seemed, if I looked at her, maybe a little tired. I noticed she had like a fever blister kind of thing on her lip. I didn't think too much of it, but then when she told me how she was really tired and worn out and emotionally drained, she went on to explain. I'm just getting a message from Ray. So we're figuring this out. Figuring out. Okay, call in on the host line. So I'm typing a message to him right now. It'll be great. So I appreciate being there and listening to this. And I couldn't hear him. How cool is that? And when he calls in, we'll see what that's like when the call comes in. So with the coworkers, she was telling me how she was emotionally depleted because these people have been coming to her and telling her the things that have been going wrong in their life, and they just sort of were dumping on her. And then she was sort of taking it on really emotionally, like really being so, empathic that she was taking on their emotion. And then it was leaving her drained, and then they hung up the phone or they closed the door where they went on with their lives, but then she was drained, and then the next person and the next person. And I got to talk with her to say that, wow, I could see that could be really draining. But then also to talk with her about the idea that I find that whatever I tend to focus on is what I tend to attract in my life. And so I recommended to her to not, like this, I said to her, this might be the last time you tell that story. I said, this, telling it to me, it's fine, she told it to me, but I said, this might be the last time you tell that story. And she seemed to feel immediate relief as we were talking. She was like, that got her attention, and then she was listening to say more. Like, she wanted me to say more to her about this. Like, how could she be? I think I described myself as being Teflon coated, and I often delete files. Like, I'll be focused on the person or individual that's saying they're having some difficulty or some challenge, and then I'll just be sympathetic to them or loving to them or whatever it seems to be the right response for them. But really, I don't take any of it in because I'm sort of Teflon coated. I know all is well. They're just really reflecting back to me. I mean, I didn't get into all with her all of the things that go through my head, but just the idea of Teflon coated, she really seemed to like the idea that she could sort of inoculate herself against this, or certainly delete the files as soon as she heard it, so she could still be caring and reach out to people. And I was able to share a story with her about someone who had just told me some personal news that I could have been sad about and decided to think sad thoughts and spiral downward. But I just decided sort of when the conversation ended, when the connection ended, then that's when that ended. And I said I wouldn't have really remembered it except we're having this conversation. And so it's kind of coming back to my memory now. But it didn't really have an emotional impact on me. And so I think we had Ray. You called back in on the host line. Is that correct? You may be talking, but then I can't hear you. Interesting. I don't see any special instructions I need to be doing, but on the current phone that I'm using, it says that I wonder if I can do, maybe what I'm going to do, I wonder if I could pause this somehow and call in using another phone. Maybe if I call in using another phone, and then we have 2 hours scheduled. Okay. Well, I can call in using another phone on this phone while this is still recording. So let's do that. That seems like a fun idea. A live show. Okay. So we'll see what this brings.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio.
Excellent.
Please enter your host pin. When finished, press the pound key.
Okay, she's going to tell me I didn't put in all my letters. I know. That's because I didn't press at least 4 digits. I will do it again. And now I'm entering in the phone number. I'm re-entering the PIN. I'm hearing special instructions.
Automatically at your scheduled show time. You will hear the PTR jingle, Blog Talk Radio.
Mm-hmm.
When you are on air. To start your show now, press 1. To hear important instructions. It appears that the host has already dialed into the show. Only one host is allowed per show.
Oh, only one host. Only one host is allowed per show. Oh, that's great. Okay, well, let's see what happens. And then my other story is about a woman manifesting the calls, for her work to go the way she wanted her work to go, which was really, really cool. So let's see if I type in the guest calling. Fascinating, to me at least. As I dial in the guest call-in number just to see what that's like. Oh, okay. Interesting. How'd you call a New York number? You'll be able to listen to the show. Great. I can hear myself. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and very nice to hear myself. I'm going to go ahead and pause and look at my settings I have on my account. Okay. So we're DVD pausing the show, and then we'll be back. Okay, we're being reconnected now. So I think we have been reconnected. And you're there, Ray?
I'm here.
Yay! I'm so excited. So this will be interesting to see if this just merges at the end of wherever I said we're going to DVD pause it. And then that's when I DVD paused it and had some interesting experiences and connected with Ray, and here we are. So Ray, thank you you were there at the beginning of the show. I appreciate that. I'm sure I felt your support energetically, and that kept me going. But now's a good opportunity for you to introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. And my name is Reymond Colson, and so those of you who are listening, me and Sheila met in Sedona, Arizona at a Bashar event, and being that the topic of the show happens to be power of influence, because that was definitely going on when we met. And so as far as me, right now I've got a business that's just now getting up and running called Heart-Centered Healings, and I'm really excited about that, and you'll be hearing more about that as it gets going here. And other than that, I am a Reiki master and an ordained minister, and I love to volunteer my time. Right now I'm on a the local hospitals here in Phoenix, Arizona, where I live, providing energy healing and Reiki services there. So,
that's great.
So I'm really glad to be here and glad to be part of the show.
Great, thanks. That's beautiful. That I like heart-centered healing. That's beautiful, beautiful idea. And maybe that's great. And maybe we can, since I'm still learning all the blog talk stuff, we can just do a low-tech kind of thing, and you can put a comment on the episode, right, with how people can reach you and get out to you, because it made this thing we're doing right now will be recorded and sort of live on afterwards, that if you wanted to.
Perfect. Right now I have we have an email up. It's heartcenteredhealings@gmail.com. So Heartcenteredhealings@gmail.com. I'll be glad to post the information on the site there as well.
Oh, that's great. I like that it's plural, heart-centered healings. More than one, for everyone.
For everyone and everything.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much. I mean, it's been it's fun to do it like a show. Right now it's just you and I, but it's fun to do it like a show. One, because I've done lots and lots of public speaking and conferences and presentations. Two, because I'm the youngest of 5 kids, so I've always sort of felt like I had an audience. And 3, because I really like the idea of the radio show and frequencies and our words and intentions going out over the airwaves. And what Bentinho said today was about when you claim something and sort of when you give voice to it, it can, I don't know if you heard that part right today, that he said it will be exponential. Did you hear that piece?
I did not hear that piece actually, but I mean, go ahead. When we speak our words, definitely, our frequency is definitely broadcast out, throughout the universe, actually. So, our universe, and just like for me, really, speaking something is bringing it down into the physical from the thought or the etheric world where it's just kind of lingering, just as well as physical action is part of grounding in work. You can't just visualize things and expect things to happen. You need to ground it in and integrate it into the physical some way. That way you see the results and experience what you want it to that way. So
that is great. Yeah, I'm new to this grounding idea. I mean, I'm new to the term for it. I'm sure I've done it at different times, but I was new to it, yeah.
Sure, and I'm just kind of using it loosely there. Saying grounding into the physical is maybe a visualization as it coming down from the thought patterns that are up above our head, maybe is the way I visualize it. And then when we ground it into the physical or integrate it, we actually take it from just the visualization stage and make it happen. So, but that ties into with what you were saying. Just speaking is, giving off our frequency, giving off our vibration, and whatever really our state of being is at that time is what everyone's going to experience and feel from us and get that effect. And again, that ties into the power of influence and being aware that really we need to take care of our state of being and take care of ourselves. In that way, we can influence others by just being ourselves. So.
Exactly. Well, how cool was that? And today he's talking about, I want to ask your opinion about my mom's story, since you volunteer in hospitals, so I'm curious about that. But I just wanted to insert here I thought of being influenced to others, like I was thinking the people I'm up close to. So people like my mother, my coworkers, if I'm giving a seminar or workshop or coaching clients or whatever, but the people I can physically see. But what Bentinho said today is about that we have these thematic, I guess we have these themes that we're exploring in this physical life, and there are energetically tens of millions of other people connected in that same theme experience.
Right.
Energetically could be anywhere on the planet. And when let's say one of us, when I make a shift or when I have my vibration elevated and have like a peak experience, that impacts everyone else I'm connected with and uplifts. So someone, go ahead.
Exactly. I was just, saying exactly, that's exactly how it works pretty much. So energetically, everything is energy, so everything is connected energetically, right?
Right.
And look at it as in a good way to picture it is if you have all these gears that are connected and you turn even the smallest one, they're all going to turn. So any change that you make is a complete change to anything and everything. So basically that's how it works. You take care of yourself. You make sure that you're in alignment. You make sure that you're taking care of your state of being and vibrating at that high vibration that everyone, knows and loves to be at, and it's different for everyone. So whatever that case may be, following your excitement to get to that vibration, and excitement can be anything, from talking on the show right now, which is very exciting for me, to turning around and taking care of my daughter. So it can be anything, as long as you know that is what keeps you in alignment, and then that gives the impact for just being in that alignment allows everyone in your physical as well as the energetical. So everything that's there, it gives them, so every other being and thing, the opportunity to see that and be more of themselves. So basically, you take care of yourself, just like you were saying. When you showed up at the Bashar event, you just knew you had to be there. You were really excited about it. It almost flew by. You were taking care of yourself. And when I came along, I was doing the same thing. And then I also saw that you were doing the same thing I was doing. So that was the influence. Just being yourself is the influence. So that me seeing you do that, you seeing me do that, it just made it even stronger of a vortex or whatever energy that was. And we actually made what we desired happen. We wanted to get in. We were told we weren't getting in, but we didn't care what we were told. We knew we were getting in, so we did. And so that's how, really the power of influence works.
Right.
Kind of behind the scenes, every day that, it's not really something you see. The physical we see change on the outside is because of the work that we're doing for ourselves and this evolution and healing that we're all going through right now.
That was great. There's two things I want to say about that. One is the Bashar thing, and then another is about the impact we can have in others' lives that we're all connected with this theme. So with the Bashar thing, I really felt like the group of us that were outside, sort of this breakfast club or island of misfit toys, or depending on what reference, movie or TV show reference you want to make, we really were having a great time with each other, kind of hanging out. Then we went in, and it was in the session we were part of in the afternoon where there was only a couple of hours remaining. It was in the session we were part of that the announcement came through about the change, the shift. And it felt to me like we were part of that tipping point. We were part of that, we influenced that.
Yes, definitely. We were definitely part of that. It was a co-creation. Anyone that had that experience was part of that energetically, if not physically. So like we were saying, any little change that we're making, so us being on that very high vibration, all of us being in alignment, was just enough to turn a gear, so to speak, to start making more gears turn. So basically, just like everything that's going on right now, we see out in our world, we see everything that is starting to change. We see people starting to, quote unquote, wake up to awareness and consciousness. So these are the little gears that we're starting to see right now, and eventually the medium-sized gears and so on and so forth will start turning as well. It just takes a little longer for those to turn. So in 3 years here, we're going to see dramatic changes based off the little, the changes or the influence that we're making right now. So,
right.
So, and basically, I was actually listening to Bashar clip the other day, and he was talking about we've already made as much impact as we possibly can in our lives just by being alive. So what we're actually doing is when we are putting ourselves in alignment with our true selves, our natural selves, all we're doing is allowing ourselves to perceive more of what we have already done just by being alive.
That's good.
Yeah, that really struck me when I heard that.
To perceive more of it. That I wondered when Bettina talked today about we make it like a ripple effect, like we have a peak experience and someone else might just have a pleasant surprise happen to them. And it didn't occur to me that we influenced each other that way, that my positive experience could mean someone else gets an unexpected check in the mail, or someone stops to help them with a flat tire, or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, even if we don't know about it, I think Bentina was mentioning that even though a so-called light workers that are actually concentrating and focusing on healing ourselves, which in turn heals the planet, or the universe, or our world, however you want to look at it, it changes everything. So even what we don't see, even because we know there's 7 billion people on our planet, right? There's 7 billion beings. So even those that we don't see, the work that we're doing, quote unquote work, because it is, it is a challenge.
It's focus, yeah.
It's focusing on something, an outcome. Just doing that provides an inspiration for others. So even though we don't physically see the being, they can still tap into the collective consciousness of where we are. If they're not perceiving us, they can still tap into that collective and still get the benefit from what we're doing by keeping ourselves in alignment and keeping ourselves true and just being alive.
That is so cool, and then it makes me think about because I think they let 6 or how many of us was it? 6 or 7 of us in, and I think it means that 6 or 7 people didn't show up in person. Right at the Bashar event. So because they had these, just to explain, there were these, I don't know, let's say 120 people were allowed in the space due to fire codes, and for some reason that was really enforced by the facility. And the facility was saying they were counting the bodies in the room and saying, maybe some spaces don't care that much. But I thought, that's interesting that the event that I was so attracted to is an event that's held in a space that has this going on, which makes it more of an interesting challenge, right? More of a focus to get in. Although when we sat outside, what was her name that we went and sat outside with her? Do you remember her name? The woman that, oh my goodness, I can picture her. I can't think of her name. And we sat outside and we're kind of against the glass and we could hear. Because we were happy to pay and give our money, but they were saying, at the beginning, they were saying, the facility wouldn't have space for you. And so we could hear, and it was beautiful. I got to hear maybe 15 minutes before they broke for lunch and listening outside while looking at nature. But I really felt like I wanted to be, in the room. I was feeling that could be cool as well, and then that's where we ended up. But the people who didn't go were inspired not to go because they were inspired to do whatever they were inspired to do. So I like to think that they were inspired to do something with their highest excitement, and maybe it was to stay home with their family and watch on Ustream, or maybe, who knows what, they were inspired to be at the beach or take a nap, or I don't know.
Right.
And somehow them following their highest excitement, that's how I like to think of it, rather than anything going wrong, because nothing's going wrong. They followed their highest excitement, and that allowed the space for us to come in, so the cup sort of overflowed energetically and with positive vibration.
Right. So, you take care of your state of being, you follow that excitement, and then that's what your state of being is. So that's what you're putting out, and that's exactly what you're going to get back, energetically and physically. I know for some people it doesn't happen physically as fast as they think it should or want it to at times, but here in the next few years, you take care of yourself, you watch your state of being, you give yourself the opportunity to choose where you want to be, and things are going to start getting much more easier here. So
I think so, for sure. And I was curious, what did you heard me describe the story with my mom, and when I kept myself in this happier place and the way I wanted to look at it, and looking at these tests instead of being tests, looking for trouble, they were healing that she was receiving.
Yeah. In the same situation. So you knew what you preferred, and before you even walked into the hospital, you took that moment to realize that you had a choice. And, you have all these infinite amounts of realities that you can choose, to walk into pretty much based on what you prefer. And when you realize this, you can pick, okay, I prefer this. This is what I want to feel in my heart. This is what I'm feeling, and then you really just make that happen. And then your influence by taking care of yourself, your influence, I wanted to add earlier when you were talking about the story, is you're not just influencing people, you're influencing everything. The hospital, the machines that are, testing your mother, everything is being influenced just by your state of being. And really, that kind of ties into the business that I'm starting, Heart-Centered Healing. It really starts with your heart. If you think about it, your heart is sending out all these, this electromagnetic pulse at 360 degrees, which everything is interacting with, people, machines, plants, animals, everything. So really, you taking care of yourself, saying, I know my mom, is in the situation right now, but I can choose the way to experience this, for myself, and that just bled into everything else because of your intent and your focus is so strong to experience it the way you did.
Very cool. And I had a coworker who I was able to give insight to. She was just, people were telling her these emotional stories, and she was taking them on as such an empath, and she was feeling overwhelmed by, she felt they dumped on her. And that's when I was able to somehow describe to her, maybe this is the last time you'll tell the story, because I believe what you focus on. I mean, it's really Law of Attraction 101, but for this person, it was new information. So it was kind of fun to be in a place to, give someone a new way of looking at something. And I could tell she felt relief right there while we were talking. Like, she was like, oh, yeah, she got it. And maybe this would be the last time. And she couldn't help but notice that they sort of dump on her, and then she's feeling overwhelmed, and then they're off at a party. And she's sort of wallowing, and then she gets herself back up to normal, and they come back and dump on her again, because she sort of set that pattern up, and by focusing on it, and she can still be, we talked about being in quicksand. I said it's like emotional quicksand. All these things that are so, for people who follow these types of things, are so commonplace, but for her, she was like, yeah, we can't both be in the quicksand. I said, you have to just point them to get out, to pull on the vine and to stand up, really. It's just usually a matter of something simple like that. They're sort of floundering. They just need to sort of pull a little bit and stand themselves up. But you can always see that from a distance. And by the end of the few minutes we had together, she was laughing and joking about that. And that was really a nice experience.
Good. So basically, what I got from that was your friend is, she perceives people dumping something, whatever, on her, the work or whatever, and then
it's not. Yeah, it's like dumping their emotional story, like they might have what they perceive as an emotional trauma, right? Some contrast or some challenges, and because they don't quite understand how they're creating, they're just sort of deep in the story and sharing everything they don't want with her, and she takes it on, feeling it like, oh, that must be terrible and tragic, and she's sort of feeling the feelings, but her life is pretty normal and happy, and so she takes on all these feelings. She chooses to feel this way, and then she's depleted, and then it lingers long after the conversation, and so she was looking for a way. I describe myself as being Teflon coated, and that I sort of delete files, and those are a couple of expressions she seemed to like.
I see. So basically people are, throwing all their emotions toward her, and then she is accepting those and taking those on and kind of carrying them around.
Right.
Is what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, in that situation, you do your best to help people through whatever you can, and it sounds like that's what she's doing, trying to her friends or whomever these people are.
Right.
And their issues or whatever emotions they have coming up for them. I guess, the best thing to do is, and I'm not sure what level she's at as far as being aware of certain things, but the best thing to do, I guess, in my opinion, is for her to make sure that she is taking care of herself, regardless of that. And I keep saying, take care of yourself, take care of your state of being. That's different for everyone, so it's hard for me to put a specific on that statement when I said take care of yourself. Basically,
it makes sense. Mm-hmm.
So, basically you just need to do whatever excites you at a time that you're not trying to really assist someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I know that for me, basically helping others is exciting, but I don't look at it as well as, I don't give it the meaning of I'm taking on other things from people.
Right.
So it's all about her perception. If your friend could basically, find some type of technique, and like I said, it varies for anybody. It could be running, meditation, it could be listening to music, just some kind of technique to keep her in alignment. When she puts herself in alignment, all this negative baggage or emotional baggage that she believes she is taking on, or even if she is taking it on, to realize that she's allowing that, and she has the power within herself to not even take it, or if she's going to take it, she can do something to just let it go.
Right.
Know that it's not hers and it doesn't belong.
Exactly.
And so that's another thing I also assist people with, is basically, I call it consciousness coaching. So I can help you kind of relieve yourself of beliefs that really don't serve you, so that you can become more of your true self and figure out more and expand more about who you are and know who you are. And that way, when you can feel more of when you're in alignment, when you can step back and take a look at really what's going on in a situation, and know and see that it's really about how I'm looking at it is the only reason I'm getting this feeling of negativity. So
that sounds great. And so I'll follow up with her. Thank you for all of that, because I will follow up with her again. That was Friday. We had the conversation, so I'll follow up with her on Monday, maybe with just a little simple line about, even on the airlines, they tell you to put your own oxygen mask on before assisting someone else. And so can maybe help her think about what would be her oxygen mask, right? Like you're talking about state of being, what could it be for her? Maybe she listens to music. Maybe she does these different things. So, I'll follow up and maybe plant the seed, that idea with her.
The thing is, all of us experience things that we don't prefer. We are forever changing. We are, constantly, especially in these times right now where we're becoming more aware of our consciousness, more aware of our surroundings, more aware of everything that's going on, we are experiencing, I guess we are able to kind of slide up and down the spectrum of love and fear back and forth very quickly right now.
For sure.
So these kind of things are happening not just to your friend, but to everyone right now in these times. It's not a time of perfect bliss. Of course we all want to get there, and we will eventually. It's going to get there, but there is the process, and we have to go through the process. Obviously, the process is the journey. So these things will continue to happen to your friend as well as other people, just so that we can learn more about who we are, who we truly are, and really that's what's going on.
Yeah, it's great. And then the same day we had, so thank you for all that. And the same day, so I felt pretty good about that conversation. Like I was able to, she had relief, her face was smoothed out, and she was joking around and laughing. And she told me that I'm the only one she goes, I'm always telling you things. And she said, I said, yeah, that's cool. It's great. I mean, technically she's my supervisor, but, we're just two people on the planet, and we tend to end up in the same place at the same time lots of times, parking nearby each other and walking in at the same time. But she said, I want to let you know I don't talk this way with everybody. And I said, oh, okay, that's cool too. I really didn't have an opinion about that. I know she was trying to tell me it was important to her to tell me that she's sharing with me. She doesn't share like this with everybody. But for me, it just felt like, all right, that's cool. I said, I kind of joked around and whispered to her saying, I don't really think about other people. I'm not thinking about, when I'm here with you right now, I'm not thinking, I wonder if she talks with everyone like this, or what is she like with other people. they don't really exist for me right now. I'm just talking to you. Sure. And for her, I think that was kind of new. Like that whole thing was maybe new, but she must have been ready for it, right? Or I wouldn't have been able to. It wouldn't have been there for me to say.
You wouldn't have said it if she wasn't ready for it.
Right. So it's not like I am all this master whatever, and then I did this. It's that sure. I'm a cooperative component, I think, as Abraham Hicks would say, right? I was a cooperative component showing up, willing to play along. And, okay, now we're having this conversation, which, wow, that really was fun and interesting and enjoyable for me to see a shift in her and to see her feel lighter. And then I went about and kind of forgot about it. Then one of the new trainees is learning how to do their job, and the job is, and they're just a few days on the job, and so they're still just like listening to live customers talking with other people, and then they sort of get exposed little by little, acclimated to it, and learn the systems and stuff. And this really bright, energetic woman in the class, she was saying, oh, I hope we get some amazing calls. I can't wait to hear what everyone says when we get back. And she was so energetic about it, but I realized she was looking for, like, dramatic calls. So I said to her, oh, you're looking for dramatic calls, like really unusual calls? Is that what you want? And she was like, yeah, I can't wait to hear all the crazy stories. And I let her talk for a little bit, and I said, well, I'm going to just interrupt you for a moment, because here's what I know. As humans, we kind of do like the drama. I mean, look at our movies and TV. We kind of like this exaggerated experience. I mean, me too. I said, right. But I've been through the same program you're going through. Sure. And I came out on the other side and had interactions and was, held to certain expectations. And I said, if I were in your shoes, and this is what I wished for myself and what I'll share with you, I said, if I was in your shoes, I would hope to have the kind of calls that would be really helpful for me in doing this new role I've taken on. So that enjoyable, that they're easy customers, they're problems and I have solutions, and that it feels like kind of a natural give and take in that way, but I get exposed to a lot of things which I will be able to use practically in helping me learn my job.
Right.
And she was like, all righty. It took her a little bit to kind of switch gears, from the I want it to be dramatic and Jerry Springer type or whatever, which is initially where her kind of feeling was. And then I said that to her. And it was just to her. Other people were doing their own thing. And then sure enough, then I kind of forgot about it, which is the beauty of all this, right? I wasn't thinking, I can't wait till she comes back to tell me. I kind of moved on to whatever my highest excitement, which is lifestyle design, which is what I think one of the other show topics will be, about designing your lifestyle, kind of a Tim Ferriss thing. Then there might be shows about the energy exchange and this barter system between people that are healers and teachers, and then maybe about contact. I think those would be some interesting show topics. But for this one about just staying on the influence thing, I was following my highest excitement, which was talking to people about doing seminars in different parts of the country and all this stuff. So by the time she came back, I didn't even ask her how her calls were. We just went on with the rest of the afternoon. And it was during the rest of the afternoon when we were going over some of the material, she said, I had a call about that. And then the next piece of material we went over, she said, I listened to a call about that as well. And so then I sort of reflected back to her. I said, oh, are you telling me that when you listened to calls, you heard calls that you're directly able to apply to the information we're sharing with you right now? She said, yes. And I said, isn't that great? She said, yes. And I said, isn't that what you intended? She said, yes. I said, how good for you. And then the people, this was in front of the class, so it's a small class, just 6 people. So it was in front of the 5 other people. And so they heard me say this to her, saying, isn't this what you intended? Isn't this what you focused on? And one of the fellow classmates said, well, how did she do that? And I said, well, why don't you tell them? How did you do that? And then she started talking about, I didn't know what she was going to say, but it was, for me, it was hers to say it. It's not me. I'm not she was the one who had the experience. It's more fun to direct it towards her. And she said, she goes, well, you start with being mindful. And she went on for this interesting, described her kind of process and being as happy as she can, and then how she set her intention. And she didn't, I'm saying she said it more organically and naturally than someone who's been exposed to all this vocabulary, right? She said it really from her heart. And then the other coworker, was interesting. I didn't know where the conversation was going to go, but the conversation went in a really funny place where the woman said, well, what do you think about traffic? And I said, well, I tend to have good experience in traffic. I flow and the lights are green. And she had some story she was telling about her husband, who drives kind of crazy and erratically in her mind. And I stopped listening during the middle of that because I was like, wow, how interesting. We went from, she got a glimpse of someone that is in her room and in her peer group. She got a glimpse of someone that created an outcome that they wanted, but somehow her mind was on some other thing. Like it was an innocent question, sort of about what did I think about, she could have been asking me, well, what do you think of Chinese food? It was that, didn't seem to have that much connection to the topic. But I was like, okay with that. I was like, well, you never know what seeds you plant. Exposing that conversation in a room and in a setting that doesn't normally have that kind of conversation, I felt pretty good about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's where the magic is. I mean, you bring that conversation up, and then regardless of how people react, because you're not going to set any expectations for anybody. You can't force anybody to talk on the level that you want them to talk or to understand the things you want them to know. But just by being yourself and talking about what excites you gives everyone in that room physically the opportunity to do the same thing and to match that. And you were talking about, you don't really care about other people when you started, the conversation. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that as you don't let other people, validate your being. And that's what it's all about. You don't want to look to anything in physical reality as for validation or acceptance within yourself, because we know where we are today with our consciousness. We know that physical reality is just a mirror for us. It's a reflection. So any relationship you have with a person or anything in physical reality is there only to reflect back to you more of who you are. So we're all here to help each other at the same time of only taking care of ourselves. If that makes sense. We're all in service at the same time to ourselves and to each other at the same time.
Exactly. There's Matthew, one of the clients I work for is Ford Motor Company, and they own Lincoln. And so the Lincoln commercials with Matthew McConaughey, I mean, I rarely watch traditional TV, but, I saw him on YouTube. So have you seen the one where he talks about balance? He says when, You might have heard about the one with the bull in the middle of the road. Does that sound familiar to you? No?
Commercial?
Commercial with Matthew McConaughey when he's in a car, a Lincoln car, and he pulls up and the bull's in the middle of the road, and he takes that as an indicator to take the long way. No, it's like a series of commercials. I didn't see them when they were aired, but
I think I saw the commercial, but it's
been parodied and stuff like that. But there's one of them on YouTube, and he talks about balance. He says I think it starts something with him saying it's not about hugging trees. It's not about being wasteful either. And then he says it's when taking care of yourself takes care of more than just yourself. That's the sweet. And that really appealed to me. Like I was like, oh, it's great that having this client that now I saw this commercial I wouldn't have been exposed to, and I understood later that the commercials were parodied and lots of jokes were made about it. But to me, it really resonated. I'm like, yes, exactly. I didn't think there was anything comical about it. I thought it was cool and true.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I have seen that commercial.
Okay.
I just couldn't visually remember what it looked like, but I definitely remember those words. And yeah, and like I was saying, physical reality is just a reflection for us. So as we change, as we start to realize that we are love and light more and more, we see that as in our reality more and more. We see these commercials talking about consciousness and your state of being and all these different changes. I'm doing Reiki in a hospital right now. And you know what I mean? That to me, you don't hear about stuff like that every day. I mean, now it's becoming more and more popular, sure, but 10, 15 years ago, from a linear timeline,
right?
I'm not sure that was even going on at all.
I don't think so. Not in my experience.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, the more we take care of ourselves, the more we acknowledge our state of being and accept who we are, and make sure that what we prefer is what we prefer. And I don't think there's anyone really that's really dark or sinister trying to take over the world or anything like that. It's all about, taking care of ourselves. And when we do that, just like I'm saying, the outside is going to change. And we're starting to see that now. We're starting to see that more. And it's just going to become more and more dramatic as our little gears are turning right now. Like I said earlier, these big ones are going to start shifting here soon. And we're going to see all kinds of changes. So, and taking care of your state of being is all about not worrying about what changes are happening either, because I'm not saying everything's going to be hunky-dory from here out either, because we still have a process to go through. We're still, we still are feeding toxins into our body, with the air we breathe and the food we eat. So we still need to take care of ourselves regardless of what is going on the outside. And then eventually, when we realize basically who we are and just keep transcending and expanding, then eventually we will get tired of seeing, segregated, negative, things that separate, those types of things. We'll get tired of it eventually, and it's already happening. You just have to notice small changes right now.
So here are the two. And thank you for that. So here are the two things I'm thinking. One is about, I have a comment about what you said about the toxins, the air and the water, and then I have then I'll have a question for you about how you maintain your state of being. But first, I wanted to talk about because here's where my belief system goes. I mean, about influencing, like I said, the people up close to me. Like, that was really cool on Friday to have that personal, when the girl was talking about dramatic calls, and it could have gone that way, right? She would have had the most outrageous call that we've never had before, and it would have been exciting on that level. But I suggested to her, and then she took the suggestion, obviously, or else she wouldn't have had that experience, right? Or it's really me, I guess it's really me lining up with the reality where she chooses that experience, doesn't get what really happened. But it felt to me like I was influential in an up-close and personal way, and then to be able to hear from Bentinho that we're really influencing people. Someone might have a nice day, a nicer day. I have a third question. So someone might have a nicer day just because of us keeping ourselves in a higher alignment. They might have had a little, something unexpected happen. So here's my third thing that I want to insert before talking about the toxins and before finding out what you do. So isn't it fun to have this sort of rolling agenda in my head that's what's coming up on what we'll talk about? It's fun for me. So the idea of the idea of impacting others and making them have a better day. It was something about that. As soon as I distracted myself from it thinking about the other two things. But let's see if it'll come back. The idea of we're making someone an impact. So does that mean, like when I have, let's say I'm doing all this stuff, keeping myself in my highest excitement, right? And then something pops up, like an unexpected, someone treats me for something I think is nice, like treats me for lunch, invites me to a party, a thing I thought was going to be unpleasant. I get a call and then they say they changed their mind. That isn't whatever's going to happen. The hurricane that might be headed to Florida is not headed, right? Something changes.
Okay.
So does that, I in the past had taken sort of personal credit for it, that I had allowed myself to shift to a parallel reality where the hurricane just goes off out into the ocean or brings rain to an area that needs rain, something like that. But now hearing Bentinho talk about the influence of others, maybe it's how are they contributing to my experience too? Or is it just that we're all in this together?
So, we are all in this together, and we are all one as well. So the all is the one and the one is the all kind of ties in here. So there are other beings than just me or you. Obviously you're one, I'm another. But it's all of the same energy. So can we all agree to live within a collective? Okay, so I guess the way to explain it is, even though there are other beings, so you're a being, I'm a being, our perception of each other is our own perception.
Right.
So you can look at it as like physical reality is like a rubber wall, and when you want to see me, all I do is really kind of put my hand in that rubber wall, and all you're seeing is your visualization or your perception of what you think I look like. If that makes sense. So yes and no. It is all you, and it's not. Like I said, we live in a collective agreement of co-creation as well. So,
but then if I raise my vibration and someone brings you a cupcake, you have an experience because we're thematically connected, and if he says that it can impact others, and it kind of, I guess, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? So I've gotten my vibration to a high level, and it zooms out of me and impacts everyone I'm connected to, and you get this cupcake. Is that something you would enjoy? I don't know. So you have this cupcake pop up, and you're enjoying that, right? So if I can, because I only had it in a one-way direction in my mind listening to him today, I thought, oh, wow, I can influence others. But doesn't that mean that others are influencing when cupcakes show up for me? It's not just me. It's not just where I'm keeping myself.
Yeah. Okay. So the way I look at it is the collective agreement is more of generalizations that we have, like gravity. Okay. If you want to be specific and say, I'm going to send this guy with a cupcake with my intention, that might be your own reality, whereas that guy doesn't even get that cupcake in his reality. If you're going to drop down to that specific of it.
Yeah.
See what I mean? The collective is more of a generalization. Okay, we all experience gravity. We all, think certain things are bad or negative things. These are agreements. We all agree that if you drink rat poison, most likely you're going to die.
Right.
The physical body will die.
Right.
This is a collective agreement. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. And then, but then when you said today that we can influence others, like don't just think if you're doing it for yourself, it's not selfish. I mean, it is and it isn't, right? We're taking care of ourselves, but it can impact someone else's experience.
Right.
So then that means that stuff you're doing to keep yourself in a peak alignment, it must be a two-way valve, right? It isn't just me influencing. It isn't just us pushing out influence. It must be we're receiving influence as well, right?
Yes.
Whereas I looked at it before as if until just a few hours ago that I was the one raising my vibration, and although I have guides and I have other beings working with me and supporting me, I have this belief we're separate, right? At least up until this point, to believe we're this separate being.
Right.
And kind of going it alone. And then, but then I thought that I was shifting myself to another reality, or I was causing this experience to happen. Whereas now it seems like I'm also receiving. If I'm in a certain place, then I will receive according to whatever I can receive at that, like whatever filter I have on it. Someone could have a peak experience, and that could maybe mirror another peak experience for another individual that's very close to a peak experience, and maybe someone that's very far away from a peak experience might just have a thought of relief, something like that.
Right. Okay.
Because that's all they can sort of let in. But then that means if I'm able to contribute that, then that means I must also be receiving it, right?
Yes. And we have to remember that when we talk about things like this, it's also this and that. It's not this or that. So everything is kind of happening. Everything you can imagine is going on in these multiple realities that you choose which one you're experiencing. So, every moment, every second, actually less, they say billions of milliseconds or whatever, however that works, is a different reality that we're shifting through. And at any point, we can decide which one we prefer. And we're doing that consciously and unconsciously. And the thing about today is, and what we know today and becoming more aware, is we're bringing our unconscious to the surface so that we can know how to control these things and go towards what we do prefer rather than, letting these unconscious thoughts just kind of linger around or these old beliefs hang around and thinking, well, I wasn't thinking about this, so why is it happening to me? And you're stuck in that cycle of life is happening to me, and I'm not life itself, not making things happen. And that's the cycle where you're going to be constantly disappointed with what's going on, and you're looking to the outside for validation, and that's not really what's going on in your consciousness or within the world. Life is happening through you, and you have to realize that, basically your experience of physical reality is all under your control, and it's not, things aren't happening to anyone. We're making them happen singularly on an individual level and on a collective level. It's all agreement that our souls have agreed to, not our physical body or our physical brain that we think we actually are these things. We are not physical bodies. Our physical bodies are in our soul, not the other way around.
Right. That is so cool to remember that. It's funny. What does Bashar call this? The we forget stuff here. What is the? He has a name for it. That we came here with the planet of forgetters or the planet of.
I'm not sure.
Misdirected people. He calls us.
But we definitely birth ourselves into physical reality with the intention not to remember who we are.
Yes.
And that's
about
crazy. The process of what we're going through is remembering who we are. And we're not these physical bodies with these brains, and our brains aren't controlling what we think they are. There's really more going on here. Bashar had talked about that we only, spectrum, our perception, we only see 1% of actually what's actually going on. And then even at that point, it's 1% of that 1% when we talk about physical reality. So there's so much more going on that we previously, thought in looking from a linear time space when I was young and you were young. There's so much more going on that we know now that we really didn't know about before. We might have felt it in our hearts, and that's why we're discovering it now, because it is within us, our hearts, and we know these things to be true. But everything, and like Bashar was saying at the event me and you attended, reality is, I think he said, dissolving or dismantling. And that's really what's going on. Physical reality is just an illusion, and we are so much more than what we think we are.
Exactly. It's like the Matrix with the numbers going in the movie The Matrix, and everything sort of coming apart. And so there's something about that. Oh, when you said you don't feel there's anything bad going on, I think when I heard somebody talk about, one of those teachers talk about anything like the government or police or anything like that is really just a reflection of our fears. Kind of like we've imposed our fears. We say, okay, we want our fears to be outside of ourselves and to these entities, so all of that dissolving is just really a way of us saying we don't need that anymore. We don't have to be afraid. We
don't need these old fearful, quote unquote, negative beliefs anymore. We acknowledge them. We know they're there, and we know that they're there to serve a purpose. Is why we're able to let them go and drop them away. Because if we still, quote unquote, feared that fear, it wouldn't go anywhere until we realized it was trying to tell us a message and trying to help us, actually.
Yeah, it's funny. Bettina said today that it's funny how hard it is. When we came into this, we thought or chose this experience that a negative feeling should just be an indicator to turn around and feel good. Oh yeah, you got yourself off track. Okay, now get to feeling better. It wasn't expected to really spend a lot of the teachers say that, to not wallow in it or spend a lot of time. And I guess when you come to the place of forgetting, you might forget. But the thing about the toxins in the air and the water, I have this, I'm not a fan of drinking rat poison, right? I'm not going to say that. But I really think that it's more about the beliefs we have about the thing. Like if I think drinking purified water is really better for me, but for some reason I don't allow myself to have it based on feelings of worthiness, which is wrapped up maybe in some lack or financial, whatever I kind of put it into, then it's interesting to examine all these things to say, well, what does it really mean? Is it really okay for me to be here, or do I have beliefs? Is this environment could be okay for me, but to examine my beliefs around it to see what I might have around that. I thought that was interesting. When I always just have been drinking tap water, and I drink about a gallon of water a day. It's really, but then Bentinho said though he doesn't give much advice on physical kind of stuff like what to do. And although a lot of people talk about drinking water and drinking as much water as you can, and Bashar talked about vitamin C and MSM. But Bentinho said, what about purified water rather than? And I was like, let me think about that.
So we have to remember that everything is a permission slip for us, okay? So what that means is, yes, it is really based on beliefs and not based on this water is better than this water, okay? Because there's people in other countries that don't have the quote-unquote pipe system that America might have, and they're doing just fine. So it has nothing to do with water being better than the other. The way I look at that, as far as in the world that we perceive as negative, whether it be chemtrails or fluoride in the water or whatever the case may be, is basically we give everything meaning. So everything is meaningless. So if I look at something and I decide that it's negative, I know that I've given it that judgment or that meaning, and then still from there I still can decide I can still take that into a positive and say, okay, I need to look within myself and figure out why I think this is negative, or what lesson is this trying to teach me about myself? So yeah, I know I mentioned earlier about chemtrails and putting toxins into our body, and I kind of look at those things as maybe collective agreements rather than personal agreement, because I have a lot of beliefs myself that don't really coincide with, quote unquote, what maybe the collective agreement would. And I just think that's part of being unique. Everyone's unique. Everyone has their own individuality, their personality. So everyone has their own beliefs. But it's all about knowing what you're looking at, and taking a step back really from physical reality, and knowing that you kind of really are doing everything to yourself. You are giving everything meaning. And a good example to prove that you're giving everything meaning is two people can have an experience, the same exact experience of a dog, but one person could say, look at this dog and say, I really am scared of this dog because it's bigger than I want it to be. And that same person could say, I don't care how big it is, I love dogs. So that's just an example of how you give everything meaning. Everything that you perceive in the world is meaningless and neutral. And you're deciding, for me, or is this negative to me? And really you empower yourself when you can see that, okay, yeah, I gave this a negative connotation, but where does that leave me? What do I need to look at with inside myself, to make a change that I don't have to view this in a negative or experience, so to say. And that's part of that's just part of, I think, part of being in, or I guess we're not in physical reality, but part of the agreement of physical reality, part of our collective agreement is that, okay, we're born, we grow through this life, of physical reality, and then eventually we're going to die. And yeah, we're cleaning ourselves out, and I think when we clean ourselves out on a physical level is really ourselves cleaning beliefs out of ourselves. That happen on both ends. Just like we were saying earlier in the call, you can't just visualize something and make it happen. You have to put action towards it. You have to have, you have to take what you visualize and integrate it into the physical, because regardless of what the physical reality being an illusion, it is still part of the experience that we chose to experience.
Right. Yeah, I noticed some resistance to myself with that a little bit, like, not about if I'm a creator and I create my reality, I sort of forgot about this collective thing. And the same thing with the water, when, like, people of influence, to me, so people like Bentinho or Bashar, if they're advising something, I sort of, and at first I noticed myself right now pushing back a little bit, like, I can drink whatever water I want. Like, for me, it's easier and freer to just fill it up at the tap. And then I thought, well, maybe there's something there for me to examine. I'm saying it's easier and freer, but maybe there's something below that.
Totally can, and anybody can drink any water that they choose, and if they truly believe that that's healthy water, then that's healthy water.
Right, but I'm thinking maybe if I can allow them to be people of influence to me, which they already are, but if I can say, why am I pushing against that so much?
Right, exactly.
Why am I, like, a little stubborn about it? Like, is it, it certainly is easier to fill it up at the tap, but is it luxurious and beautiful, and do I feel good drinking it? What are the thoughts I'm telling myself of that? So I'm digging, that's a current process right now to sort of uncover that a little bit, see what's there.
Exactly, and it's all about the individual. It's all about how you feel inside. If you're questioning something, you're questioning it for a reason.
So you're questioning it, say that again, you're questioning it for?
A reason.
Reason.
If you're questioning, if you're drinking tap water, questioning if you should be drinking it, that's coming up for a reason.
Yeah, I wasn't questioning it, but I did attract, I say I wasn't questioning it, but I did attract You know, how many hours of material could I have listened to? And I did a segment that talked about, he was like, come on, drink purified water. He's kind of saying it like that. Drink water you think comes from a purified source, not just tap water. Because you can if you want. You're free to do what you want. I thought, oh, that's interesting. I attracted that bit of information, and I pushed against it like, well, I don't have to do that. And then I was like, what's that about? So let me explore that a little bit.
Right. And you're allowed to use what is best for you and throw away whatever is not. If you feel like something's not good for you, somebody else's belief, you know, whether you want to incorporate that into your own or not is totally your choice. You don't have to do it. It's all about everything is a permission slip. Like I said, if you think this one thing, if you think drinking purified water is going to make you feel better, then it will. And it's all about knowing it. So like I said, that person that's drinking tap water and believes it is truly healthy for them, it is. And they're not questioning anything. They're just drinking it and they know it. So, and then to that simple. So if you're really kind of questioning something or feeling resistance, it's for a reason. And if it's when you know something that you're not questioning it.
Exactly. So nobody ever thinks, I think I'm going to get sick when they're not going to get sick. At least I don't think so. Not in my personal experience. So I was like, isn't this interesting? I'm using it as an opportunity on something kind of innocent or small or not threatening, right? To just think about what beliefs would I have? Mm-hmm. Why do I think it's easier to just put it to the tap? Why am I sort of lazy about something why do I want the lazy thing about self-care when I've done things like move to France or change jobs or give conferences or things that might seem more complicated to other people? Why is this such an effort to get purified water into my living space? You know, I think, that's interesting when it comes to doing something for myself. So I'm using it as this whole exploration just to look at the beliefs behind it, and then I just kind of do what I do. Perfect. Yeah.
And then once you investigate all those and find the one that no longer serves you, all you have to do is find it and realize it no longer serves you. And then you just drop it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Because I thought this was an opportunity just to have something bubble up because, it's good. It take the last, I don't know, it's like the last little bit of impurities, but impurities kind of coming up and then clearing out. And I'm curious about you and your state of being, so that you must have practices and things you enjoy doing and things that keep you in your highest excitement. If that's something you'd be interested in sharing?
Yeah, definitely. So here recently or lately, I should say, one of the major things I'm doing is just following my excitement, regardless of what that looks like from moment to moment. You know, still on this phone call is exciting for me. You know, like I said, when we get off the call, whatever I start to perceive, whether that be playing with my daughter or if I have to go clean up, do some chores in my house, I'm going to do it. I choose to do these things with excitement. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. So that's something I'm concentrating on within myself right now. I think that's great. That everyone should look at because it's not about what's going on the outside. It's all about you. It's all about what you prefer. So follow your excitement. If you don't like that, at least follow your heart, because your heart won't lie to you. Okay? And then so some other things I do yoga, I do meditation. I, constantly giving myself quote unquote energy healing with my Reiki. Let's see, what else do I do? I actually do crystal work as well. So one of the things I do right now is I actually have crystals inside of a water jar that me and my family drink.
That's nice.
That's something I use. Like I said, it's just a permission slip. I believe that raise our vibrations and get us into the vibrations of the crystals that I've placed into the water. Let's see, what else do I do? I love hiking and all kinds of things like that. Yeah, so I do all kinds of things to allow myself to detox and to heal and doing all these things at the same time, following my excitement, is really what it's all about. Taking care of yourself, taking care of your state of being. You know, not that negative things don't happen to me, because they do, all the time. You know, I'm human just like everyone else. So I do experience negative things, but when I do, I quickly acknowledge it's not what I prefer, take a step back, and go in the direction I do prefer. And now these things are happening for me quicker and quicker every day. They're getting faster and faster for me, as to where in the past I would dwell on things and let it ruin my week, you know, my day or day after day of however long, and just dwell on negative and not feeling worthy. And now these last few years, as I've, you know, been awakening, as people call it, quote unquote awakening, you know, taking care of myself and following my excitement and just working on me, you know, I've expanded so much. I've, you know, and this probably lead into another radio show.
Oh, good.
All the changes that I've been through, but you know, just I just love basically where I am in my life and what's going on, and I know that I, you know, have created this all on my own. So pride in myself and where I'm headed, as well as where our collective is headed, you know, down this linear timeline.
Oh, that is great. And I love to hear all the different things you have that you just keep going from one. It's like a buffet, you know, but a buffet of all your favorite things. So you go from this to that to maybe.
And the thing is also about all these permission slips I have for myself to make myself feel good. I don't do them, you know, okay, I wake up and I meditate, and right before I sleep I meditate, and at a certain time I'm doing yoga. I don't do it like that. I really just have fun with it. If I feel like doing it, I do it. If I don't, then I don't do it. You know, right now I probably haven't done yoga in like 5-6 days, maybe. I don't even know. But that doesn't mean I'm never going to do it. And I know that yoga, for me, is really relaxing. It helps me stretch my muscles and helps me really expand my mind and quiet my mind at the same time. So I love yoga. It's just I don't make it a routine. I follow that excitement. I don't make my excitement a routine. Okay, I like doing yoga. That doesn't mean I have to do it every single day.
Yeah, isn't that great? That's so freeing. Yeah, I love that too. It's like that's why I said for this show, first we just talked about doing 30 minutes, and then when I got the little, you know, got into the settings of I said, oh look, we can have 2 hours, and I thought, well, I'll just set it at 2 hours, because then we talk however long it's fun and how much there is to talk about, and then like microwave popcorn. You know, when it stops slowing down to pop, you're like, okay, that's the end of that, and that's cool. So and then how often will we do these? I don't know, but it sounds like we have a few more topics we could do together if you're interested in continuing this kind of conversation. And as we'll figure out, like, how to get others on the line and all that, whatever those things, those will come. I'm not worried about it, but for me, it was just an exciting idea I was using it to bring it into reality. Like if speaking and listening and having a conversation is a really fun, exciting thing for me to do, and talking about this stuff, then why not just do it? Yeah.
Very exciting. And a good example of how, you know, I think we were talking maybe a couple days ago, not very long ago, when you had this idea. And look how fast it's already manifested and starting to grow into something.
Yeah, because you've been part of that picture, certainly supporting me and having the faith to say you're one of those people that you're a person of influence. You know, you're living your life saying, maybe you'll brush up against things in the world and you'll be like, ooh, that's not what I prefer. What do I prefer? Or it can serve me. It'll serve me to put my focus here, or serve me to do this, or serve me to do that. And that as a creator, everything is here to serve you and to serve me, to serve us. And so that's, okay, well, maybe, and hearing today about the doubling factor, how when you give voice to things and when you kind of ground things in physical, it really has a big impact, which is just so interesting to me to do this consciously, to be like, I'm doing this for the purpose of what would keep me from doing it? Fear of maybe it's not interesting, or fear of who's going to care? And I'm like, I don't know, because I care, because I like it.
Exactly.
So why not just do it and then trust that
exactly.
things
will
unfold.
The people that need to hear it, it will get to them. The people that don't. You know, they don't need to hear it, so they won't hear it. And that's all that matters. That's all you have to know.
Right. And I was so pleased with myself. I just kept talking when you were there, but I didn't know you were there. And so I just said, well, I'm going to tell whatever story I would tell. So let me just go ahead and tell this, because it's more important that I'm telling it. It's more important for me, like this is important for me, than to hang up or give up or do whatever. And then I just kind of hung out, and then I thought, well, I'll figure out something. And then the idea to pause the show and then call you back and all that stuff. I'm like, it'll all work out, and it makes for a really good story, and about just staying focused and allowing things to come up and following your excitement. Sometimes the excitement is something big, like it feels big, like a move or a life change or career change. And sometimes it's just what you feel like eating, or do you want to go out and see the sunset, or do you want...
That's right. That's exactly right. It doesn't have to be this huge career change or this huge dramatic change that you foresee happening or you really want to happen. Following your excitement, you know, because we still live in time and space right now, so we can't just skip all this process that we've chosen to go through.
Came here, exactly.
Right. We're all here by choice.
Yeah.
We didn't just get thrown here and things are happening to us. That's not what is going on. So following your excitement is from moment to moment. You know, it. Like I said, I'm going to hang up this phone when we get done with the call, and whatever I experience, you know, I'm going to look at that and decide, regardless of the meaning I might imbue it, whether it be changing a diaper or whatever it is. I'm following my excitement. That's what I love to do. And
exactly.
I'm changing a diaper because I love my daughter, obviously. I'll do anything for her. So, so whatever it is, whatever the circumstance, follow your excitement.
Right.
If you're experiencing something negative, realize that you're out of alignment with yourself, not with the world around you, with yourself.
Right.
And then from there, you can say, oh, I don't feel good. Let me start feeling better about whatever it is. Let me take care of myself. And then almost immediately, if you recognize that, you can start to see change.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yep. We have 80 seconds.
Yeah. So thank you for having me on the call.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I really appreciate this conversation, and that it's so exciting to not waste one moment in as negative. I don't think it's possible for us to experience thoughts as negative as we might have in the past. But they feel they're in such sharp contrast to how they're in such sharp contrast to how we've been feeling. Like a small negative thought is now intolerable. It's almost intolerable. And Bettini was saying it's not just for ourselves, for the impact we have on others. You just shake it. What's that Taylor Swift song, Shake It Off?
Shake it off. Right.
Shake it off. So we are people of influence. Thank you, Ray. And